About a month ago, I reported on LibreOffice accusing Microsoft's artificially complex Office XML format of being a lock-in strategy. The basis of LibreOffice's argument was that Microsoft's usage of the XML format deliberately locked people into using Office over open-source software. It also touches upon how Windows 10 is losing support soon, and how people are being corralled into Windows 11 whether they like it or not. However, LibreOffice touches upon an interesting point. While Microsoft is to blame for its practices, the fault also lies with us a little for going along with it. And you know what? They're totally right. Microsoft has been turning up the heat. It's Microsoft's way or the highway. So, Microsoft hasn't exactly been the nicest kid on the playground. People have been warning us about its strategies for years, but we've kept going. And now, the company has gotten pretty bad at sharing with the other children. LibreOffice's main pain point was how Microsoft had tweaked its XML format so that, while anyone can use it, it's deliberately convoluted to dissuade others from using it. To illustrate how this translates into a lock-in strategy, consider a railway system where the tracks are accessible to all, but the main train manufacturer imposes its own incredibly complicated control system. In theory, anyone could build a train compatible with the tracks, but the control system specifications are so convoluted that only the main train manufacturer can ultimately offer rail services. The worst thing is that passengers don't realize they are being held hostage by technical constraints that they cannot understand until ticket prices rise or the number of cities served declines. At this point, the main manufacturer can dictate its terms, which passengers are forced to accept. The same goes with the current Windows 10 to Windows 11 fiasco. Past versions of Windows have had a pretty painless upgrade process. Sure, each iteration of Windows asked for more powerful specs, but usually, you could just install the newer operating system and see if your system handled it okay. Windows 11 was the first time that Microsoft started demanding specifics. If your processor doesn't support TPM 2.0, you don't get Windows 11. It doesn't matter if your PC is physically powerful enough to run Windows 11 just fine, it's the security module that matters. As such, if people want to continue staying within Windows ecosystem, they either have to force Windows 11 on their old PC and lose support, or buy a new one. But we refuse to jump out of the pot. It's comfier in here. Now, I don't want to say that Microsoft isn't at fault here. It made the rules that we're following, after all. However, we are very much following them. We have been presented with alternatives, and we know of their existence, but we opt to stay within Microsoft's ecosystem. As LibreOffice puts it, if, over the years, the millions of Microsoft users who uncritically accepted a narrative that was credible to non-technical users, but divorced from technological reality, had taken a critical stance towards this monopoly, which would have raised doubts in any other sector, we would be in a very different situation today. Instead, these users, including governments and supranational organizations, have allowed lock-in strategies, in which Microsoft 365's artificially and unnecessarily complex XML document schema plays a fundamental strategic role to become increasingly sophisticated and pervasive. This is a huge problem for us as consumers. When a company gets to a point where they can make pretty much any demand they like, and its user base will go through with it, it doesn't matter how much we complain or raise our voices. As long as Microsoft sticks to its guns, we'll eventually swallow the bitter pill and do as it says, because we don't want to leave the ecosystem. And the more Microsoft gets away with, the more it can make demands of us, as it knows that we're all bark and zero bite. But why are we staying with Microsoft and not moving to open source software? Well, the answer isn't pretty. The problem, our desire for convenience. We don't have the time or patience for open source. There's a phrase that gets passed around the tech scene: Linux is only free if your time has no value. Because yes, Linux and other open source apps are free to download and use. In a world driven by money, you'd expect the free version to overtake the paid one. The problem is, the paid option just works. I've been making the move from Windows to Linux myself, and one thing I have discovered is that things often don't just work out of the box in the open source world. It's not because the product is bad. Usually, after a bit of tinkering, you figure out what's causing the issues you're having, and you can fix it. The problem is that it needs that initial time investment to get it working the way you want it. If you're on Fedora and you want an app made for a Debian system, you have to use the alien terminal command or a container to install it. If your hardware isn't working properly, you have to find drivers that run on Linux. If the developer never made Linux-compatible drivers, you have to figure something else out. And if someone shares with you an Office document, you have to hope OpenOffice can handle it. Windows doesn't have this problem. Installers made for Windows don't need any special TLC. You double-click them, and they work. Once they're installed, they work. If you need to install a driver, it works. You open a document in Office, it works. And if something doesn't work, we can yell at Microsoft until they publish a fix that makes it work again. Microsoft has gotten us into a state where we don't need to think, tinker, or troubleshoot our software. We just double-click the icon and wait for it to just work. If it doesn't, it's someone else's issue to solve, and we flood social media and support emails until the issue is resolved. While this attitude persists, people will always opt to swallow whatever pill Microsoft does because it's a lot less hassle than having to troubleshoot open-source alternatives. And that goes for both our operating systems and our software. Microsoft's convenience is sweeter than LibreOffice's freedom. On paper, LibreOffice and open-source software in general has the upper hand. The software is free, you can trust the work that goes into it, and you can tinker with it when it's missing something you want. However, as long as we value things working first try over anything else, Microsoft will keep tightening its grip on us.